Following on with the oracle readings from the Affirmators deck, I'm now going to do the one that I promised yesterday, which is love and relationships. So, yeah, some of you this might be your favourite one out of the four that I have, because love and relationships is always some it's a subject that we always want to know more about. It's kind of one of those things that preoccupies a lot of our energy, a lot of our emotions, whether that be friendship relationships or whether that be romantic relationships or familial relationships, or the relationships we have with our pets, the relationships we have with whoever, and everybody that we interact with in our life. They're really important. Those relationships are the things that kind of like support us and hold us up. They're the relationships where we get our energy topped up from, and where we get to give and be of service. So all these things are really, really important. And if our relationships are out of balance, then that can really deplete us, and it can affect us in really big, dramatic ways. So it's very important to try to have balance in our relationships, and to examine the relationships where the balance is out of sync, and see what we can do to heal those relationships, or else move on from them and let them go, realizing that they are not part of our life path. And one of the hardest things that I had to learn growing up was that I couldn't keep every friend with me for the rest of my life. Not everybody is meant to be there forever. Some people we have to let go, even if that's a childhood friend who we've known since we were 3 years old. We reach a certain age and that relationship may not work anymore, and through no fault of our own or theirs, it's time to move on. And different life experiences can come in the way and change relationships, like amongst our friends. If we decide to have a baby earlier than our friends, or they decide to have a baby earlier than us, that can change the dynamic of the relationships, and suddenly things don't seem to work anymore because our interests and our priorities are different. And when we have children, we grow up quite quickly. So all of a sudden, if we have children at a young age, so if you're in your 20s and you have a child, then you're going to be a lot more mature than your other friends who are in their 20s, and so maybe you feel better hanging out with other people that have young children who are going through the same experience as you, or people who are a bit older than you who've already been there and done it. But it could be frustrating hanging out with people that haven't had children yet, who are still fancy free and footloose and going out partying all the time and everything, and spending all their money on things for themselves. So there are many things can affect relationships. People change jobs and then they have different interests, and you can then no longer relate to that other person because they're working in a different field and you know nothing about it, or it's a field that you don't support, or a field that you have no interest in. People can move, so they're no longer living in the same city as you. Perhaps they've moved halfway across the country or to another country, and even if it's only like a couple of miles down the road, if you're used to seeing that person on a regular basis as part of your routine, when they move, their routine will change, and then maybe it's harder to catch up again. So maybe you only meet up like once a month instead of once a day, and that changes the relationship. It doesn't necessarily end the relationship, but there's a certain you have to let go what was that familiarity of having that person in your life every single day for coffee, for example. Maybe you met them every day for coffee at 11 o'clock, or you met them every day for lunch when you both had a work break, whether you worked together or not. And then suddenly that person's not there anymore, and that's left a hole in your life, and there's a bereavement there that has to be honoured. And it's only once you've honoured that bereavement and really given it time, that you can then move on into the next phase of that relationship, and meet them there where they're at and where you both are now at. and be happy and satisfied with that. So, like, all the changes in relationships aren't always bad. Some changes in relationships are good and necessary. Some grow your relationship to a new place, or the relationship transitions and it is equally as good but in a different way. So there are some gains and some losses, but also there are relationships that we let go because of things like, for instance, people change jobs, move countries, or have children. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, that relationship will never come back again. Maybe, you know, 5 years later you decide to have a child, and now suddenly you've got something in common with that friend again because they've just had their second child or their third child, and so you've both got babies at the same age. Or maybe, you know, 10 years down the line you meet up again and their children are a bit older, so they've got more time. And even though you've never had children, you've still got the things in common that you had before, and now their child is not the central focus of their life. There is space in their life for other things like meeting up with friends. So that's the kind of like my scope on my take on relationships, is that they are complicated and messy and beautiful and life-sustaining and nurturing, and they encourage us to grow, and they push us into trying things and doing things and going places that we wouldn't, you know, necessarily have done otherwise, because friends can accompany us on those journeys, and friends can give us the confidence to try things if we're trying them alone. But there are also difficulties attached. So I want to do a reading now, after having said all of that about relationships and friendships and everything. I'm going to do a reading with this deck on love, actually, and on romantic relationships. And the question that I wanted to address was the whole notion of, you know, when you have a daisy and you pull off the petals and you go, he loves me not, he loves me not. And I thought that I would pull two cards, and one is he loves me and the other one is he loves me not, and let's see what they say. And then from those two cards we can work out if he actually loves you or if he loves you not, depending on the energy of the card. So I'm going to shuffle the cards, and please feel free to replace he with she if that is more relevant for you, or whoever, you know. If it's a friend, you can put a friend in there. If it is a sibling, for example, you can put a sibling in there and use it for the dynamic of a sibling relationship, or your pet, or anybody really. I mean, you could kind of like, I mean, if we're looking at it loosely, you could put in a teacher who you have difficulties with in class, for example, and maybe you want to find out if they like you, not as in a romantic way, but just as a person, or if they don't. And maybe this reading will help you to figure out what the problem is, if there is a problem, so that you can resolve that and have a better working relationship with them. So yeah, just basically adapt it however you wish to suit, and we'll go from there and we'll see what happens. That was the card that popped out. And then that was a card that popped out. Okay. So, if we're looking at the he loves me part of this question, the card compassion came out. And we're seeing a picture of a man who is part horse with high heels on. So yeah, a man with a tie on, with a red tie on, and what looks to be like a fairly in shape body. I wouldn't say he's totally got a six pack, but he's kind of got a six-pack. He's got a two-pack at least. And then there's this horse, and the horse is not quite as in shape. The horse is a little bit the posture of the horse is a little bit wrong. It's a little bit kind of soft. And the horse is wearing high heels. And the word says compassion. Okay, so he loves me. So this is like, does he love me? And the answer is compassion. Okay, so you want to know if this person loves you. And the fact that you're asking this question suggests that you're insecure in your relationship with them, or insecure in how you believe they feel about you. So when you're interacting with them, you're judging yourself because you're thinking maybe you're doing something wrong, and you're also judging them because when they're not showing you in a way that you can feel, see and touch their love for you, their respect for you, then you're going to be feeling critically towards them. And so it's kind of like there are confused emotions there, and this card is urging you to have compassion with your confused emotions towards yourself and your confused emotions towards that other person. So just like be compassionate with yourself and be compassionate with them, and don't leap to conclusions or judge and be critical. The card is not clarifying yes, he loves me, but it's also not saying no, he doesn't love me. It's kind of saying be understanding with this person, so that if they are slow in reciprocating your feelings, so maybe you are making it really, really obvious how you feel about them, and they're not giving you anything back. They're just taking it and they're saying, oh, thank you, and they're walking off, and they're not reciprocating, and so you're kind of feeling a bit drained out, because every time you give and you put yourself out there, it's kind of just taken in a really like offhand, dismissive way, or it's taken but it's not paid back to you, and so you're just slowly but surely emptying yourself out, and it's a bit disheartening, and it's making you feel really insecure and kind of like nervous around them, and your heart is like feeling pained because you really like this person and you really want them to like you, and you're invested in having a relationship with them or in your relationship with them, and they're not giving you anything back. And so it's kind of like the picture on the card, it's kind of, it's asking us not to be judgmental, really. Like we're saying, if we look at this picture, like maybe we're inclined to be judgmental. Like when I looked at the picture and I was saying, oh well, the horse looks a bit soft, it's a bit rounded, not quite toned or in shape, and this horse is wearing stilettos, but the picture is of a man, and the man is kind of like, he's got a suit tie on, but where's his suit? And he's kind of got a six-pack, but it's not really, it's a two-pack. So I was being kind of like, I was critiquing the image to try and draw the information out of it, and without having like kind of read any of this, which I still haven't read, I was trying to understand, well, what message does the picture have for us here? And the message that I was picking up was basically to give that other person the benefit of the doubt, and don't judge them or criticize them, because you do not know what their reasons are for their actions, their behaviors, their lack of response to you, their lack of warmth, their non-reciprocation. Like maybe they're already in a relationship, or maybe they've just come out of a relationship and they're not ready for another one. Maybe they like you, but only as a friend, but they're not attracted to you. Maybe they like you, but they're too embarrassed to say, and they can't quite work out whether you like them or not. So they're kind of like waiting to feel it out a bit more first, because they don't want to make a move and embarrass themselves. And even though you think you're being obvious, you're actually being way too subtle. Because let's face it, like if I'm talking here and I'm talking as a woman to you as a woman, so if you're listening to this and you're a man, I apologize. This will be useful to you, but it's not relevant in terms of I'm not speaking to you directly in this moment. Yeah, but as women, we think we're being really obvious. We think we give men signs and clues about things like, for example, what we would like for our birthday. We make multiple references to said object or activity. And then when it doesn't turn up on our birthday, we're really completely and utterly confused, because how on earth could anybody have missed the signs, let alone somebody who supposedly knows us? And yet time and time again this happens, because men don't read the world in the same way that we do. And if we were giving those signs to another woman, they would get it instantly, and we'd get that thing for our birthday. But when we give them to a man, men don't navigate the world in the same way as us, so they don't, that we have to spell it out to them in black and white. So maybe this person that you're attracted to doesn't know that you're attracted to them, doesn't know that you like them, because you haven't spelled it out in black and white. Okay, so now the actual message on the card says, I choose compassion over criticism. Walking a mile in other people's shoes reminds me they might be going through something tougher than I think, like their shoes are too tight, or they're the kind of shoes that are too casual to be dressy and too dressy to be casual. Basically, I have no idea what they're dealing with privately, so I'll cut them some slack and be thankful for the shoes I've been dealt. So essentially, it's saying, you don't know what they're going through right now. You don't know how they're feeling. If you're listening to this video right now, or within a couple of weeks of now, especially, like, there is so much stuff going on in the world at the moment, like so much stuff, and people have experienced a lot in the last 3 months. Their lives have changed drastically. Some people's lives have changed more than others. Some people's lives have really, really been affected by this whole situation, and other people's not so much, depending on whether anybody they know has been ill, affected by the virus, or somebody they know has been ill or injured and affected by the fact that they can't actually receive treatment. Maybe they're not working as much as usual, so they're worried about money. Maybe they've lost their job completely, so they're really worried about money. Or maybe they're about to lose their job because we're now coming into a time of redundancies as the furlough period is closing. So there's a lot of anxiety and stress out there at the moment, and also people are fearful of connecting and meeting at the moment in person because of the virus. So there's that, and then on top of that there are other issues that are going on in the world that I won't go into. So all of this that's floating around in the collective energy and then is attaching itself to us is going to affect like how people are navigating their lives and their emotional well-being, and how they feel, and how open and willing they are to form new connections, to deepen ones that they already have, to continue ones that they already have. And so I think we need to give people a lot more slack right now than we would do ordinarily. So if the person that you like is not reciprocating, and you're putting yourself out there and you're trying and they're just not meeting you, maybe you need to just like give them some slack and try and walk a mile in their shoes. Try and be understanding about what they might be going through, and just make allowances for that, and not jump to conclusions that it's all doom and gloom for the relationship. Maybe it's literally just like they have too much other stuff going on right now to prioritize you or a relationship, and so there might be time in the future for that relationship to blossom or to deepen, but right now might not be that time. So it's not like the end of a story, a closed book. It is a be compassionate, be understanding, don't be judgmental or critical, and try and put yourself in their situation, in their shoes, and see how you feel about the situation then, and maybe that will give you some insight into how you could show up for them and support them, not necessarily in a love and relationship way, but in a companion way, in a friend way, and then perhaps that can then deepen and grow in a love sense when they have more space in their life. The second card is the Who Loves Me Not. So if he loves you not, it says grace. And there is a picture. The word grace, I love the word grace. Like, if I could change my name, I would change my name to be called Grace. I think it is the most beautiful name. I love everything that it evokes. I have a cousin whose name is Grace, and then her second name is Angel, so she's called Grace Angel. And I think that is the most beautiful name ever. It's adorable. I love it. Yeah, I would swap my name for that if I could, but it's someone else's name, so I can't steal it. And yeah, although I've toyed many times with changing my name to something that I feel suits me better, I never have, because I also believe that our names are very personal and say a lot about us. And if you read into the energy of your name and what it means, like, I can't remember, there's a like astrology, like studies, when you were born and the planetary alignments and everything, and that can tell you a lot about yourself. And how, like numerology, it can tell you a lot about yourself as well if you work out, like, when you were born and how old you are now and all those things. Well, like the whole thing with names is similar, and a name can tell us a lot about ourselves. And so I'm reluctant to change my name, because my name says a lot about who I am and where I'm from, and if I change it to a different name, maybe that will alter my life path in a way my life path is not supposed to be altered. So even though I don't feel like my name is my name and really fits me or suits me, and I never have, that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't. So anyway, after that little diversion, so the word grace is a beautiful word and a beautiful name, and I love it. And grace is kind of like, it encourages us to be kind, and to be still, and to be peaceful. And if we're graceful, we are polite, we are accommodating, we are subservient. In a situation where we are, in an altercation, so maybe we go into a cafe and order a sandwich, and it takes forever to come, and when we kind of like put our hand up to remind the server that we're still waiting, because they're flying around trying to serve other people at the same time, and we're confused, like, have they remembered my order, or have I been forgotten? And we've been standing there for 20 minutes. If when we ask, they're already dismissive instead of apologetic, and maybe they're rude to us, in some way, and so our hackles go up. If we can be graceful in that moment, and just be really understanding, and walk a mile in their shoes, and understand that they're stressed and they're multitasking, and that's never a great idea. But in a situation like that, in a job like that, you have to multitask most of the time, and multitasking is challenging, it's difficult, it's hard, and most of us can't do it very well, because each thing only gets given a portion of energy. So if we can be understanding to that person and say, oh, it's okay, don't worry, take your time, no rush, whenever you're ready, I just wanted to make sure you remembered that I'm still here, but no stress, then that is a graceful response to that situation. And maybe it inconveniences us, because then we've lost like extra time, and so perhaps we've lost our lunch break by the time we actually receive the sandwich, so we can't sit down and eat it comfortably and peacefully. But we have we have done our bit in that situation to raise the vibration. We have given that person who is obviously overworked and stressed a bit of support, a bit of understanding. And so we have lightened the load of their day. And that is what being graceful is. It's basically about us asking in a situation, I suppose. And forgive me if you're not religious, because I'm going to use a religious example here. But like, if we were to ask, what would Jesus do? What would a religious person do? What would a, then that response is the graceful response. Like the person who is trying to follow Jesus, a person who maybe follows A Course in Miracles, for example, they would always try and do the most highest vibrational thing in a given situation. And that, I think, is what being graceful is. It's about trying to be a better person in every incident, and a person who just quietly exists in the background, holding space, being supportive, being compassionate, being understanding, listening and taking their time to be present and really show up without fighting for space for themselves. Yeah, like a graceful person is just happy to be there and to serve and to hold space and to raise the vibration. They don't need to be in the limelight. They don't need to be thanked or acknowledged. So being graceful is something that we can all work towards, yeah. And it's probably not something that any of us will ever master in our lifetime, because, we all get triggered by things and we all have our bad days as well as our good days. But this card is like kind of encouraging grace. So it's basically saying, yeah, and there's a picture here of a girl. And I can relate to this picture as well, because I have a little dog who looks like this dog. And my little dog leaves me presents like this little dog has left this woman. My little dog is, she's getting on now in years, and she also has a few illness problems, yeah. And so she's not quite as sharp as she used to be, and she has difficulties with quite a few things. And one of the things that she has difficulties with is going in the right place at the right time. There's a part of her is almost like gone back towards childhood, puppyhood and everything. So many of her activities are a bit puppyish, and that's one of them. So she's gone from being very good at stuff like that to a bit hit and miss. And so she leaves me little gifts like that all the time. And it's really good practice to just be a mother and be loving and supportive and understanding, and not to chastise, because it's not her fault. She doesn't do it on purpose. It's not that she's being lazy or naughty. It's just that she has good days and bad days, and she's not really in control of these things anymore. And on the bad days, her mind isn't working enough to actually know kind of like when she needs to go or where she's supposed to go and everything. So I practice grace quite regularly in my treatment of her, and just having compassion and understanding, and just like lovingly telling her it's okay, don't worry, it's not a problem, we'll next time, and giving her encouragement, showing her again where is the right place to be going, and then without making a fuss or a stress about anything, just remedying the situation if things need to be cleaned, if she needs to be cleaned, etc. And so that's one area in my life where I practice grace on a regular basis. And I can definitely say that I have my good days and I have my bad days, depending on what I am doing and what I'm trying to be getting on with, because it can be quite interrupting. You know, it's not like she times these things to be convenient. It's like, no, she'll decide at inopportune moments that I have no control over. And so I've really learnt to be a lot more patient and a lot more compassionate and a lot more graceful about the whole thing. And so she's definitely making me into a better person. And I thank her for that, and I'm really, really grateful for the fact that she's given me the opportunity to be, to show up for her and be fully present as a mother to her in ways where perhaps, you know, when she was well and running around and everything, I didn't have to do, because, you know, we were on equal grounding. She was never kind of a dog that would look after you. Little dogs don't look after you. They're always going to be babies. So you're always going to be looking after them. But she was a lot easier. And now that I need to show up for her and be present for her and really mother her in the same way that one would mother a baby or a toddler, I'm definitely growing as a person, and in good ways, in really good ways. And she's teaching me beautiful lessons, and I'm really appreciative of that. And so, Grace, this card is asking you to, if this person that you really care about, that you like, that you quite fancy, that you'd like to get together with, that you'd like to be closer to, if this person isn't reciprocating your subtle hints or advances or invitations, this card is basically saying, you know, just be graceful about it. Don't take offense. Don't rise to meet the bait if they're rude or dismissive. Just kind of like be accepting, take it on the shoulder and say, okay, that's cool, never mind, I thought I'd just ask anyway, or something like that, yeah. And just deal with it really gracefully in a kind of like a loving, friendly matter, but like you don't care. So if you were, for example, asking a friend if they wanted to go out for a coffee with you, and they're a really close friend and you have a really like kind of easy, comfortable relationship, and they said, oh no, sorry, I can't, I need to do the ironing today, you would be okay with that. You'd understand that, yeah, okay, it sounds really lame, but they probably do really need to do their ironing that day, and going out for a coffee is like a treat. And, you know, so not everybody has time to do that every day, and you would forgive that person, and you would understand that, you know, you'll be able to find time on another day. But if it's someone that you don't know very well, so if it's a new friend that you've just met, or if it's a person that you want to be in a relationship with, and you ask them the same question, and they say, oh, no, sorry, I can't, I've got to do my ironing, you're going to react to that in a completely different way and read all sorts of like horrible things into it and think, oh no, they don't like me, they don't want to be with me, they don't want to spend time with me, and then you'll walk away wounded, and you wouldn't come back and ask again because you'd be scared of getting, you know, knocked back. And this card is kind of saying, no, be graceful in this situation, like take it on the chin, and don't be upset about it, don't complain about it, and come back again next time. So treat it like if it was a friend. So if this was a friend and they said, oh no, I can't, but hey, let's do it next week, then invite that friend again next week. You would, wouldn't you? So treat this in the same way. If they give you a, oh no, sorry, I can't tonight, but no, maybe next week, then go back and ask again next week, and be willing to be knocked back again and be really graceful about it. And just try to understand that it's not personal, but equally they may well say, yes, excellent, the next time you ask them. So the card is kind of basically saying that you've got the most chance of things working out with this person if you don't take it personally, if you're graceful about the whole situation. And then you will be able to read between the lines as to whether they're interested or not. Yeah, you'll be able to like kind of figure it out yourself by using your intuition. But just be graceful about how you act regardless of what you figure out. I think that's really important, to just like keep your own self-respect in the situation and be as graceful towards them as possible, so that you are keeping the energy, the vibration high, and you are being of service to them. Because by asking a person, hey, would you like to go out for a coffee with me? I mean, that's a compliment to that person. That shows that person that you like them, that you'd like to spend more time with them, and so they can go away feeling better about themselves. Whereas if you respond in a hurt way, then that person's not going to go away feeling better about themselves or feeling better about you, and then they're never going to want to go for a coffee with you again, or it might take them a long time to forget about it and then come round to the point. So the card, when we read it, says, I face disagreements with grace and flow through the ups and downs of my relationships without getting thrown off centre. With grace, I'm able to keep my cool, be my best self, and not resort to name calling, even when that crappy poo-poo face is being douchey barf monster. So as I said before, these cards are a bit comical, yeah. So that's their crappy poo-poo face is what the dog's being referred to. And then the douchey barf monster is also how the dog is being referred to. So basically, it's saying what I said, really, in a different kind of way, which is just to be your best self at all times. Don't take things personally, and then you're in a better situation to evaluate the things. So the reading isn't really telling you whether he loves you or he loves you not. What it is saying, though, is that with compassion, you're more likely to get a positive response from this person. And with grace, you're more likely to get a second chance from this person. So regardless of what who that person is and what they're going through, if you can acknowledge that everybody is dealing with their own life stresses and everybody has their own problems, their own hurts, their own wounds, their own worries, their own frustrations, then you're more likely to get a chance to get closer to that person if you don't take it personally and if you don't try and make yourself the center of stage. And then grace is kind of encouraging you to take everything with grace. So if they knock you back and say no, don't be bitchy, don't be hurt and upset, don't react in anger. Respond in a calm, kind, graceful manner, and then who knows what will happen in the future. And I think if the situation feels too complicated, maybe it's not the right relationship for you, or maybe now is not the right time. That is what I would say, because the cards are not really giving us a clear answer here. They're not saying yes and they're not saying no. They're just saying you have to be the bigger person. And so be the bigger person, give them the benefit of the doubt, and then walk away and sit down and really evaluate the situation and work out whether it's really the right situation for you, and whether it's in your highest good or not. So I hope that helped you in your relationship dilemma with your question, and I will do another reading here soon. Maybe I'll do a few more love ones on different subjects, and we'll use some different decks as well to see if we can get some clearer answers. Please do subscribe to my page if you like watching my videos, or if you liked watching this one and you would like to watch more. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends. If you would like to find out more about me or get a personal reading from me, then please contact me via my website lemonrosepetals.com, or my Instagram, which is lemonrosepetals as well. And if you go on Facebook, you'll probably find me under Lemon Rose Petals also, but that might be a bit trickier. But I am there, I promise you. But it's all the same information in the same places, so you can kind of keep it simple and go to my website or go to my Instagram. I look forward to seeing you again soon and to doing another reading for you. Thank you for watching. Bye.